Who taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such an extent that you bleed to get like the white man?
Well, but he's just not a teacher. Black people now want to be taught. They don't want to be just spoken to. They want to learn something now. They want to clear the smoke.
So what is his purpose?
You have to ask him that. You can't ask me what his limit is a fire conference. You have to go to him and ask him that.
What up, family? It's your boy, the Minister of Information in the building, and we are here in the building tonight. But bring your part two, man. Part two. Part one was so well. The preamble on Facebook was amazing. Again, if you wasn't here last night, or was it, I don't know, yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Pardon me. I'm losing track of time, y'all, because time ain't real no way. But I hit the good brother Crumb, and I said, bro, that connection that you made with the Masons of the Masonic Lodge and the Native American tribes, nobody that I've heard has talked about that. So I hit up good brother Crumb. I said, bro, you got to go live on it. And good thing he did, because it's going crazy right now. Good brother Crumb in the building. What's good, bro?
Peace and love, Almighty. I give high honors and perfect praise to the family, the hosts, the listening audience, and of course the panel. How are you, brother? Brother, could you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, bro. Peace and love, but how you feeling?
Oh, all is well. All is truly well. I'm feeling motivated.
Amazing. And this next brother is officially part of the Crumb TV family right now, man. Blackbeard Mirage is also in the building. Blackbeard, what's good, brother? How you feeling?
What's good, man? Everything is very, very good. Everything is very, very positive, you know. The Empire strikes back. You know, we're back right again. So
I know that's right, bro.
Good, man.
And I'm actually elated this evening, family, because it's been good news after good news. I'll let the good brother Crumb share his portion if he's up to it. But you, brother, we didn't get a chance to get into it last time. Tell us about this book, man. And the brother is an author, official tissue author. Blackbeard Mirage is an official author. This is book number what for you, bro?
So that's the third book that I've published thus far.
Amazing.
Yeah. We of course got many more to come, but basically what we're dealing with in this book is we wanted to get people interested into the topic of history. And now that we're dealing with the 250th year anniversary, I figured, well, this indigenous American enlightenment has come to the forefront. So why not create a story that can make it also relatable? So I took the story of basically the Trail of Tears, believe it or not, and the story of the indigenous people in the South and how they were removed from their land, basically, and how this disrupted families. You know, so it's a dark romance, but it's also, you know, it's erotic as well, because I wanted to bring in some female readers to get them interested in these subjects too. But just some of the, you know, various topics that's discussed in it is also the secret societies as well. So you had these, you know, like Brother Crumb talked about, these two different groups that were part of the Trail of Tears. You had those that left, and then the ones that stayed behind in the South. And the ones that stayed behind, most of them assimilated. And a lot of that was done through the Freemasonry. And through this Freemasonry, a lot of deals were done behind the scenes. And this was, you know, part of also how a lot of the remaining chiefdoms that were staying behind but were warlike and they didn't want to assimilate, they destroyed a lot of those people by teaming up with some of their own family members that became Freemasons and sent them back in as almost like double agents. So you got that factor in the story.
Wow.
um and also just, I wanted to bring back the that emotional romantic love aspect of it as well. So one of the primary characters is a chief of one of the remaining tribes in the South who does not want to leave, who doesn't want to assimilate, who doesn't want to join any of their lodges. And basically, it just shows that a lot of these men that were leading the people, they didn't want to see their people destroyed, but also they had, a lot of powerful love for their wives and the prospects of having families in the future. But when a trail of tears and these types of events happen, a lot of men never got to start a family, so it just shows like what that broken heart can do to a man who never got that opportunity and what that can lead to. And it also has, of course, the occult involved, because on the cover of the book, you can see it has a very grimacing looking character, but it's also dealing with a lot of the ancient American folklore, dealing with, what one of the modern terms we use is the vampire. But
Mm.
basically, when I dealt with the ancient Mississippians, who were the last, we'll say, major chiefdom or civilization that was in the Americas around the 1500s, when a lot of the Europeans started to encounter our people. The Mississippians is one of the, we'll say, broad terms that they would use to label our people. But the Mississippians also had some kind of connection and what word I want to use, association, we'll say, with also the ancient people known as like the Maya or the Olmec. So a lot of the, structures, the way that they would build their mounds, their pyramids, it was similar, and also some of their cultural tales. So these tales of like the skinwalker and these different, we'll say, just dark entities roaming the American, lands, that's included as well. So it's
Wow.
just a lot of different things, man, to take your mind on, as I like to call it, the midnight mirage, to go on a journey into the unknown, and to make reading fun again. So it's just something I wanted to add to this great movement, this great awakening.
Absolutely.
I guess you can call this thing the fourth great awakening, because I remember you was telling us about
Mm.
the first three, but this is the fourth one, and this is going to include a lot of literature that we're producing. So yeah, we all going in, man. We all got something to contribute, and one of the things I bring is storytelling and taking real history. But I can create compelling stories to where you don't know if it's fiction or if it's nonfiction.
Wow. Well, pronounce the name of the book for us one time.
The name is Scorporatica. So that's the
Scorpiotic.
name, Scorporatica. Yeah. The book can be found on Amazon. So you could
Amazon.
type that name on Amazon, or also you could contact me directly at Red Stick Mirage 7. So that's Red Stick RED, then the word stick STICK,
Red.
Mirage MIRAJ, and the number 7 at gmail.com. And that's how you get it from me directly. But those are the two ways to get it, through Amazon and through emailing me. But
Appreciate that,
yeah,
brother.
yeah,
Appreciate
I appreciate the time to talk about it.
No, great by the way. We're gonna definitely bring it up again as time go out.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations though, man. Like 3 books. I haven't got the first book out yet, and it's such a hard task for some people to put together such scrupulous reading material. As much as I read books, you think I would put a book out, but congratulations to you, man. We will definitely tap back in again, and let everybody know where to get that from.
Yes, sir.
Housekeeping real quick. Tapping in. True King 357 always in the building, man. He says peace and love. Of course, all of my Masonic brothers, disciples, and master students. True Kings in the building. MKG 1989, Pen and Pad Gang tapping in, man. All my disciples in Pen and Pad Gang in the freaking building, man. Peace and love from LA. Oh shit, West Coast in the building. Let's see if I got some West Coast bangers in my beat. I don't know if I got some West Coast beats or not. I gotta see y'all. Hold on. I thought I did. I'll find it in a minute. But shouts out to LA, man. LA in the building, Cali in the building. Should I say Khalifa territory is in the building. What up, Rob? What up, Doe? Peace and light, man. Peace and light. Oh hell, got them. Hey, Crumb, you better come with it. Like these Masons in the building tonight. These Masonic brothers are in the building. 357 in the building. Solo always in the building. What's up, brother? Peace and light to you. Phoenix Rising, honor and love. Hey man, peace to you. Peace to the chat, man. Peace to all my disciples. Peace to all my master students in the building as well. Boo, are you dumb? Not either in the building. What up? What up? What up? What up? So listen, man. Without further ado, Brother Crumb, the floor is yours, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So we left off talking about Arthur Caswell Parker. He was a anthropologist. He just kind of tracked history. So if I can just go over the word itself, it's the study of human societies. He was studying, his family roots, not only societies but their cultures and their development. And we kind of left off on how they developed, well, how their societies and culture did develop. And a part of what they were saying with their culture and their society is that they had a reverence for life and death. One of the things that we as Christians do is, by the time we get to the dinner table, we pray over our food. But what we don't know is that that may be a little bit too late. So what the Juicies or the Jews, what they do is they pray in the slaughterhouse, which might sound a little bit morbid, but that's the same thing that ancestors on this side of the water would do. Is once the animal, as soon as it died, soon as it transitioned, that's when we pray over it. And there was this intimate relationship between life, death, and afterlife. And this is where they felt there was well, they noticed there was a shoe-in fit with masonry and the culture over here in the fatherland. Also, I'm sorry, the motherland. So anyway, Freemasonry exercised an important influence on the development of pan-Indianism in the 1920s. Almost every male Indian involved in society was an active Freemason. Arthur C. Parker, who used both his American and his Seneca name, wrote a pamphlet on American Indian Masonry published in 1919 by the Buffalo Consistory. Parker wrote of Masonry's implicit link with American Indians and noted that the Iroquois, especially the Senecas, were inherent Freemasons. This is nature. This is natural to them. It's innate. He shared he shared the view of his great uncle, Eli S. Parker, that Masonry offered upward mobility in the white world, as Blackbeard was saying, the assimilation, and would preserve the memory of the Indian. If my race shall disappear from this continent, quote unquote. Anthropology and Masonry. The most important degree is normally thought to be the third degree, which is the Master Mason degree. This is because of its spiritual significance as it deals with issues of spirituality, maturity, death, and life after death. The murder of Hiram Abiff is central to the third degree ritual. People like Arthur Parker were at pains to point out the ritual had echoes of correspondence within native life, particularly the story that describes the Council of Animal Familiars, who restored the life of the good hunter, according to Iroquois legend. The good man wrongly ends up dead and requires resuscitation. The animals give part of themselves to restore the good man who comes back to life with renewed spiritual strength. And this is literally where we ended our last live. And I was going to go into the story of the Little Water Medicine Society of the Senecas, the Council of Animal Familiars that restore the life of the good hunter. And we can see some up close pictures in the bottom right hand corner, according to Albert Pike's Morals and Dogmas on page 80. We're going to see the mock resurrection of the Master Mason. Again, this is the bottom right hand corner. We're going to see Osiris. We're going to see the lion with the strong grip, and to the left, we're going to see a more um, a picture that has a greater depth of illustration, where he's being lifted out of the casket. This is the life and the afterlife, according to the ritual, again by the strong grip of the lion. However, you're going to see the top right, where, because in modern times, in modernity, there is no lion. There are no lions in America, so the equivalent would, instead of being the lion paw, it's the strong grip of the bear. That's going to raise him from the afterlife to life. Moving on. So this is the story. Hear me now, understand me later. The story of Red Hand, also called Ho Yi Dido, meaning blameless. He's a good dude. A reverend figure among the Seneca Nation. And it reads, Red Hand is a wise, spiritually gifted leader who lives in a deep harmony with nature. He is respected not only by his people, but symbolically by animals, plants, and the natural world itself. During a war expedition, he is mortally wounded and poisoned. Excuse me. He is mortally wounded by a poisoned arrow and scalped by enemies, appearing close to death. In response, the creatures and forces of nature unite to save him. Animals and plants offer, quote unquote, the tips of their hearts and the spark from their brains, symbolizing sacrifice, shared life force, and interconnectedness. This is not an ecosystem, family. This is not an ego system. This is an ecosystem. We're all connected. The mystical ego retrieves his scalp and revives it with sacred dew, leading to Red Hand's resurrection. He is ultimately pulled back to life through the strong grip of a bear, which the speaker compares to symbolic resurrection grips in Masonic traditions. This is the same way you shake hands. It's a certain grip you have. And these are the things, the third knuckle, whatever the case may be. You don't want to get too deep into that. Anyway, after this rebirth, Red Hand undergoes a spiritual initiation. A mysterious voice from the darkness questions him about his purity, loyalty, self-control, and willingness to keep sacred knowledge secret, even under torture or death. This is the same thing within the ritual. You're going to be blindfolded and put in a circle, and they're going to ask you certain questions, and you'll be brought into the light. And all my Masons already know this. You guys been through the rituals. I'm preaching to the choir to most of you, I assume. Anyway, he vows to uphold these secret principles, and with all due respect, they're not secret, they're sacred. The minister has said that a plethora of times. But he vows to uphold these principles and protect the mystical power entrusted to him. Last but not least, the journey becomes increasingly visionary. Number 1, he descends into the darkness near a waterfall. 2, climbs a mountain at dawn, encounters a sacred altar with a life-restoring plant, cuts the plant and witnesses blood flow from it, uses a mystical healing force to instantly heal the body. Dr. Sebi, I'm playing. This sacred power is tied to the survival and spiritual continuity of his people. He is commanded to establish an order that preserves the knowledge and rituals connected to it. He is commanded to establish an order. This is before any Mason from Europe, Egypt, Africa, wherever. Shout out to those places. I'm not banging on Europe or Africa. I'm just saying this story is a part of the culture in America. This is not assimilation. This is, hey, we recognize the similarities between European, African rituals, culture, belief, whatever, because we've already got it over here. He is commanded to establish an order that preserves the knowledge and rituals connected to it. The ceremonies described involve chants, darkness to dawn symbolism, bird calls, sacred foods, and ritual bundles carrying hidden mysteries. This isn't about knocks and handshakes or signs that you send to the judge because you're trying to beat a speeding ticket, family. Not trying to be funny, but I kind of am. But here, let me back up real quick. Minister, what do you make of this last paragraph where a mysterious voice from the darkness questions him about his purity, loyalty, whatever, and he kind of goes through the ritual? Does that seem a little Masonic to you?
Um, I'm gonna say yay and nay, and it's not that I'm trying to withhold any of the ancient arts and parts of masonry. That whisper in the dark. Where were you? Oh, okay, yeah. A mysterious voice from the darkness questions him about his purity, loyalty, and self-control, and willingness to keep the sacred knowledge. That that to me, when you go through the Masonic initiation as an initiate, they do what's called they you're in triple darkness. It's the triple stage of darkness. What does that mean? That means your eyes are closed, you're blindfolded, and you're hooked wing. I mean, you have like a pillow sack over your head, so you're in pure darkness. And then they put you in a room that's also dark, that's adjacent to a legal constituted lodge. This is so you can go within. It's for you to go within. And when you sit in darkness, you guys can try it without even joining the Masonic Lodge, by the way. But if you just sit in darkness, sit in a dark room and close your eyes, the first thing that's going to start fucking with you is going to be your mind. So that mysterious voice is self. A lot of us don't connect with self. That's why people who are tapped into like meditation or spiritual practice when it comes to being a yoga or yogi, one of the things that you see them doing is always sitting still by themselves in silence with themselves, with their eyes closed. Because this is when you meet yourself. And that small, still voice is yourself. Because this is who you're meeting yourself for the first time. And that question, I would say, is you questioning yourself. Are you going to be able to keep all the ancient arts, parts, and secrets of this sacred knowledge? Now, and it continues to read, knowledge secret under torture of death. Those are your penalties. And I won't get into all that, but you guys understand that there's penalties for each degree. Each level of Masonic order you go through, the first level, the second level, the third level, or first, second, third degree. There was only 2 degrees at the start of Masonry. Okay, the third degree was added later. But when you're entrusted with those secrets, for example, the first degree, if you give up any of those secrets, there's a penalty for it. You have your throat slit, your tongue torn out by the roots, tossed in the ocean that ebbs twice in a 24-hour period at low water mark. The second degree of Masonry, your heart, here's their heart again, your heart will be torn out of your chest, placed at the highest point of the temple to be devoured by the vultures of the air. And of course, the third one is you have your bowels removed and burnt, and the ashes of your bowels being burnt will be scattered into the 4 winds. So those are the torture and death vows you take to keep this mysterious knowledge sacred. Excuse me. And I'm surprised to see that this is showing up in the Native American version of what we get in the Americanized version. But it's right on code though. Right on code.
Blackbeard, did you want to add anything?
Well, the only thing I do want to add is that just like on our point on part 1, that a lot of the practices, wearing the apron, using the bear, a lot of what ended up becoming masonry, this stuff, a lot of this may have been created over here, in the Americas. In other words, we just, as I always say, we just may want to humble ourselves on this journey, because a lot of the stuff that they telling us, man, was created over in, the Eastern mystics, and a lot of this stuff may have been just right here. It may have been created right here. And people were initiated by a lot of these American Indians. But that's just what I was thinking before you asked me that question. Just something simple.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I did hear somebody, this is on Instagram, they said almost rating the exact same thing. You know, the person thinks they're initiating someone else when they're actually the one being initiated, which is a very powerful sentiment because, as we can see here, and this is all according to this dude right here, according to him and his family, the Iroquois and the Senecas, is, you know, they've been litty on this side. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
isn't like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, now we get it. Like, nah, we been had the juice. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so yeah, I find that it's 100% plausible. Francis LaFleche. Oh, now this is kind of a bad dude. This is where the story gets a little bit bad. This dude is kind of a coon. The first professional Native American ethnologist. He studies ethnicity. He worked with the Smithsonian Institution. He specialized in Omaha and Osage cultures, working closely as a translator and researcher with the anthropologist Alice C. Fletcher. LaFleche wrote several articles and a book on the Omaha, plus more numerous works on the Osage. He made valuable original recordings of their traditional songs and chants. A collection of LaFleche's stories was published posthumously, that means after he died, in 1998. And ethnology, the definition, the study of characteristics of different peoples and the differences and relationships between them. So this is from Old Boy's book. This guy, I keep forgetting his name. Parker. This is from Parker's book. He says, in this autobiographical book, the middle five Omaha informant and ethnographer Francis LaFleche relates a simple scene redolent with meaning. The book focuses on LaFleche's experiences at the mission school he attended on Nebraska's Omaha Reservation in the late 1860s. One day, the government reservation agent and several other men came to inspect, hoping to demonstrate all they had learned. The teacher asked one of the boys to answer the question, "Who discovered America?" Without hesitation, the child responded enthusiastically, "Columbus!" LaFleche reports this with no comment, allowing the irony of an Indian child who acknowledged only European discovery to speak for itself. I'm sorry. When I first put this together, I thought it was LaFleche as a child who said that, but I am in error. It wasn't LaFleche. LaFleche was just observing this, and he was very distraught because this is a clear example of what the minister has tried to tell us from time on in with Howard University, where they would take these Indian children and they would educate them with a European curriculum. So now you have these Indian children, quote unquote, I say the term loosely, who have been indoctrinated, indoctrination elementary. And this is how all of these HBCUs, for if you want to be honest, but in this particular example that the minister often quote cites, dealing with Howard University, starting out as a school for indoctrination of Indians, aka Negroes. So LaFleche, Parker, and all of these Indians who are leading the way are looking at these little Indian kids, which is damn near all of them now, and they're sitting here enthusiastically. He put that in there and put in quotations Columbus with an exclamation mark. They was hyped because they knew the answer. But these is little Indian kids who, maybe in 2026 you might want to argue we from Africa, and I'm not trying to make that the argument for tonight's measure, but at this particular time, this is the 1860s. It's 1860s, and they talking like that. So of course, This was heartbreaking. Minister, did you want to say anything about that?
Um, yeah, I mean, of course, nothing had already been said before, but the uh, hold on, my bad, y'all. The assimilation of these quote unquote Indians. Now, let's be clear. We're talking about the Omaha Indians. We're talking about the Lakota, Dakota. These are TP Indians, family. What I mean by TP Indians, these are nomadic individuals. These are the ones that came in. They brought in, and I can show you some on the ferry that came over on what was it called in New York. They came to the Ellis Island. There's a whole group of them came on via Ellis Island, and the remaining came on the Pacific slave trade. That nobody talks about the Pacific slave trade. They give more credit to the front porch of America than the back porch of America. But anyway, these Indian assimilation schools, of course, we know that Hampton Indian Institute being one of the first. And there were several throughout the Midwest of America, but the Hampton Indian Institute was one of the primary focus groups to assimilate both Indian Negroes and the newly founded uh, Sasquatch Negroes, or what I call Pueblo Indians. The Pueblo Indians and the nomadic Indians were also placed in these assimilation schools. However, I want to make a point that before the Negro children were placed in these so-called Indian schools, there was something called the Howard. Hold on, I'll pull up for you. I don't want to screw this up real quick. Howard Color Orphan Asylum. Sorry, there we go. It's called the Howard Color Orphan Asylum, where also these Indians were also sent to as well. These are the Negro Indians. These are the ones that Abbott Plecker reclassified. Of course, this is all happening on the East Coast of America. So this was the first situation. You see, same individual that give you Howard University. This was his first venture. He was a venture capitalist. Was to invest in the Howard Orphanage Industrial School, and this is where they began to teach the Negro children how to assimilate into the newly founded, agreed upon American society. Put it that way. Now you don't get the HBCUs or what you would consider HBCUs until after 1890 under the Morrill Act, which made them land grant colleges, and they only had permission to do what was called agriculture and mechanics. That's why you hear the A&M in most of these traditional black colleges. Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman is A&M, Tuskegee is A&M. Agriculture and mechanics, those are the only two subjects that assimilated Indians were allowed to practice. America is now going into what's called the industrial age. So they need workers. This is 1920, 1918. This is also when your boy Rockefeller began to invest. Carnegie began to invest. And of course, the number one person to create the educational system for America, his name was, it slips my, he was a German. Who was the, oh God, hold on. Who was I think his name was Horace, hold on. Horace Mann, there we go. Horace Mann, there we go. Horace Mann. So then you have Horace Mann, and notice Horace Mann was the one who brought you the formulae to how to get teachers assimilated into these institutions. So Horace Mann, Rockefeller, Mr. Howard, all these individuals were key to teaching the newly freed Indians and newly freed Negroes and the newly assimilated Indians also into American society through what was now considered to be formal education. This is how they had the Indians cut their hair off. And when I say the word Indian, family, please think about Negro people too. They had long hair too. Okay, they teach them to cut their hair off. This disassociates them culturally, and they had to become citizens. Right? Africans were not allowed to be citizens of America because they're not from here. That's what happens to your boy. What's his name? Who went to court and got denied?
Who was Dred Scott?
Dred Scott was an African. Okay, One day we'll talk more about Africans in America and not African Americans. Okay, these are Africans in America, and the reason Dred Scott was denied citizenship because he was an African of African descent. However, the Indians or Aboriginal Americans at the time, they were allowed to become citizens or to remain on their homestead, which they call reservation. Either way, they were being assimilated into the formal education, as Crumb had mentioned. And one other thing, the idea of what would later become African American study, um, uh, African. Hold on, y'all. Sorry. Okay, hold on, African studies. I think his name was Melvin Herkovich. Here we go. Melville Herkovich. Melville Herkovich was the American anthropologist who helped establish the first African and African diaspora study in American academia. Okay, so now we have African American studies being brought in by Europeans. Franz Boas was another one, European, who brought in these African American studies. So to further Crumb point, they weren't even talking about African black people being from Africa. They were teaching the young Indian children how to be assimilated into American culture by removing their culture and reteaching them or miseducating them on who they were.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's all wise, right, and exact. So, of Omaha, Ponca, and French descent, LaFlèche was the son of Omaha chief Joseph LaFlèche, also known as Iron Eye, and his second wife, Taini, was also Omaha. He grew up on the Omaha reservation at the time of major transition for the tribe. Before the establishment of anthropology programs, LaFlèche earned an undergraduate and master's degree at the George Washington University Law School in D.C. He made his professional life among European Americans. On Monday, September 5th, 1932, LaFlèche died at the home of his brother Carey in the Omaha Indian community in Nebraska, where on the following Thursday he was buried with tribal rites and Masonic services. This guy's a big deal in the terms of telling the story from the horse's mouth, if you will. And he was also a Mason, and we know because he got a Masonic burial. Um, Here's another dude, John Napoleon Brenton Hewitt, and he looks very European in my opinion, but he was a linguistics and ethnographer. And I want to just put this whole thing with ethno out there. We're dealing with ethnicity. I was talking to this brother, and he just really rubbed me the wrong way. Um, and I've never had an agenda. I never pushed anything on anybody, but when the information is accurate, we can't fight it. So the Moors will tell you got to look into the words. um and once I looked into the words, I noticed that niggas, I'm just gonna keep it a thou wow, niggas use these words so inaccurately. So do you have words that confuse ideas, and words that concepts that confuse most people, if not all black people? Race, ethnicity, and nationality. A lot of people don't know the difference between those three, and they always get mixed up. But ethnicity is the one that really, it tickles me because of how broad ethnicity is. So now, um, if I'm a Mason, my daddy was a Mason, his daddy was a Mason. That's an ethnic group. Go back and watch X-Men. X-Men, they were mutants across generations. That was an ethnic group. I was raised as a, well, they're not the Redskins anymore, but when I was a kid, they were the Washington Redskins, and from the my daddy was a Redskins fan, and his daddy was a Redskins fan, and his daddy, and so on. That's an ethnic group, and I've never heard anybody, uh, more Mason or otherwise, acknowledge how loose the term ethnic and ethnic group is. It's basically a group that follows a culture across generations. So anyway, he's an ethnographer who specialized in Iroquoian and other native languages. Hewitt was born on the Tuscarora Indian Reservation in New York. His mother was a Tuscarora French Oneida, Oneida and Scottish descent. His father was English and Scottish, but raised on the Tuscarora family. He was raised speaking English, but when he left the reservation to attend school in Wilson and Lockport, he learned to speak Tuscarora language from other students. In 1880, he was hired by some person of the Smithsonian Institute's Bureau of Ethnology, now the Bureau of American Ethnology, as an assistant ethnologist. He worked with Smith for years until she died. He then applied to the institution for employment to complete the Tuscarora English Dictionary he had begun with Smith. He moved to DC where he worked as an ethnologist. He died. He edited it. It got published posthumously again after his death. Um, and after he died, we know that he was a Mason. Um, I don't even see in here where it says he was a Mason. So that might be an error of mine. But these are leading people, and I'm almost 100% sure he's a Mason. But anyway, anthropology and masonry. The minister, me and Blackbeard had talked about this 2 or 3 videos ago. I think it was the origin of religion or the origin of Christ or something like that. But I think this is what kind of got the family a lot interested. And the minister said something that was very interesting to me. So we're going to see this dude in the bottom left-hand corner, and I've said it once and I'll say it again. It doesn't take much to be darker than me. I'm light, I'm bright, I'm almost white, and this is coming from my family. Nobody in the streets or at school said that to me. My cousins said that to me. And they know my parents, my mom and my dad and my grandparents and everything, so they know, I'm not white, but that's just what they would say because I'm so bright skinned. You the mailman baby, you the milkman baby. What my aunties would say. Anyway, he's darker than me is my point. He's very, very dark. He's not you know, he's a dark dude, this person in the picture. And he's got all of the garments and the regalia to match. He's very Indian, stereotypically speaking. With that said, what is he wearing that doesn't match the other stuff? He's wearing some Masonic regalia, being the star, the crescent moon and star. But I believe the last time the minister corrected me, he's not wearing a Shriner's crescent moon and star. If I can quote the minister, those are 2 claws of a Bengal tiger. Minister, can you help me out on this?
Yeah, that's people often make the association with that being the crescent moon and star, which would automatically set it in the house of something that's Islamic. As you can see, that head on that symbol is nothing to do with Islam. That has everything to do with ancient Egypt or Yakupta. And the priest of Lahoistan, India, had close ties with some of the information and teachings of ancient Egypt. So that symbol you see is the claw of the Bengal tiger out of Lahoistan, or we call it people say Pakistan, but it's not Pakistan. It's out of India. That's the claw of the Bengal tiger. That's not a moon crescent with a star in the middle of that. All right. That's I want to make that correction. I also point out the fact that if you see the sabatar, which is the sword, that all of the warriors of Arabia carried a sabatar. You'll see it going through the head of the pharaoh. Those are the white Shriners or the European Shriners. When it's above the head, those are the ancient Arabic order of the Noah Mystic. I'm sorry, ancient Egyptian order. And the Europeans are part of the ancient Arabic order. There are no European Shriners that are part of the ancient Egyptian order. There's 2 different orders. The ancient Arabic order, which they are a part of that order. Okay, that goes back to the Crusades, and probably the Crusades. We'll start right there. To the Crusades and how the Crusaders actually would sit and hear the stories from the Muslim brothers and sisters, and they took it back to New York, and that's when they opened up the first Shrine temple in New York. The Europeans did. So make the distinction. It's not a crescent moon. How people say it is. That's the claw of the Bengal tiger. and I can get some context to that if need, if anybody want to have a sidebar about that conversation. But that's what that is. Though.
Listening audience, could you type 3 words for me? You know, the master students, I guess. Keep me honest. I know over on most of these channels, these thought police, they have to be right. You know, there's nothing in addition to whatever they say it is, and you know, everybody's right on the internet. But over here, we add value and we
Let me
keep
just.
each other honest. I'm sorry, please.
Uh, I hear that. I just want to pull up receipt real quick. The two claws are for Shriner fraternity and its philanthropy. The Sphinx stands for the governing body of Shriners. The five-pointed star represents the thousands of children helped by philanthropy each year. The emblem also bears a phrase, Rubert Fura, which means strength and fury. Two claws, nothing to do with no goddamn what are they talking about? History of Shrine emblem. It is composed of two royal banger tiger claws, not no star and crescent. That's some shit they came up. There's some shit the Negroes came up with to try to sound cool and make it more Islamic. That's a third great awakening. The religious movement, when they tried to bring, well, not tried, they brought was introducing Islam to America at a time right before World War I in America, and the first um, masjid was in, I want to say it wasn't Detroit, it was in Ohio, I believe it was. The first masjid was in Ohio, and then Detroit, then Chicago. They was introducing Islam to America. America has never heard of Islam in the way that it was being propagated by these individuals. That's why your early remnants of these black movements in America were mostly out of Islam. Not talking about the Christian Black Church. Of course, the Christian Black Church was one of the first pure, movements of spirituality. But then you have this onslaught of Islamism and Fezes and individuals from from Cairo, Egypt, coming over here teaching, Deuce Muhammad Ali, who was the teacher of Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey, introducing this information. So the point is, that's a Bengal tiger claw, not a moon crest. I just want to show the receipt real quick, bro. I yield the floor.
As always, this isn't about opinions, feelings, or assumptions. We got to bring receipts. So shout out to the minister for that. I don't expect anything less from him. That's what he does. But yeah, ultimately, we're going to see where there's a large portion that is native to the land and doesn't have any influence, but we're going to see parts of the Masonic culture that aren't native to the land. There are no Bengal tigers over here. I guess as Americans, we all know that. But anyway, Freemasonry after the Trail of Tears. Around the time of the Trail of Tears, a peculiar institution arose within the Five Nations and began to spread throughout the Indian Territory. This phenomena is described in the story of Oklahoma Masonry, as you can see the book to the right. A number of Indian chiefs and other leaders had received their Masonic degrees in D.C. I would argue DC is one of the most Masonic areas in America. DC is not a state. It's not a city. It's not a borough. It's its own. Uh, I forgot what you call. Oh, district. What am I talking about? Obviously, it's its own district. Anyway, and the minister and I did a video, uh, maybe even a decade ago, on the DC and the guy who wrote the blueprint up, um, Benjamin Banneker. I think it was Benjamin Banneker. But anyway, uh, a number of Indian chiefs and other leaders have received their Masonic degrees in DC while they're on official business. They, with the officers and enlisted men in the army taking them to Indian territory, were members of the craft. The history of the Indian Territory and Freemasonry in Oklahoma is so interwoven with that of the five civilized tribes that it would be impossible to separate them. Now, remember, when we talk about the civilized tribes, that's just because they worked with the European, and this all happens after the Trail of Tears. This is a very pivotal point within the culture. Anyway, the history of the Indian Territory and Freemasonry. I'm sorry, Cherokee Lodge number 10 was chartered in Tahlequah. Sound like a black girl. I know a girl named Tahlequah. I'm joking, but if I don't, I'm sure I've met a Tahlequah somewhere. Cherokee Lodge number 5 was chartered in Tahlequah, the capital of the Cherokee Nation, in November 8th, 1848, by Albert Pike's Grand Lodge of Arkansas. Now, remember, Pike doesn't become a Mason until 2 years later in 1850. So that's not his lodge; it's just the lodge he was at. The officers were sworn in at Supreme Court headquarters on Ketowa Street on July 12th, 1849. It is the first lodge of Masons established among the Native Americans. This is the very first lodge. And again, Albert, I don't take this whole thing. Oh, Albert Pike. Albert Pike doesn't become a Mason until 1850. So he's not even in the game just yet. That's just, a notable name. So, I don't want anybody to run with that. But here's the historic marker for Tahlequah. You can see in the red I've highlighted the first Masonic lodge was established in what is now Oklahoma. But this is the heart of the new Cherokee Nation after the Trail of Tears, of course. On November 7th, 1848, the Grand Lodge of Arkansas granted a charter, to the Cherokee Lodge number 21, the first lodge in Indian Territory at Tahlequah, the Cherokee National Capital. And this is the building, I guess back then it was something, but to now it just kind of looks a little bit shabby. Looks like one of these black Masonic lodges. Y'all know black people, they don't like to pay dues or nothing like that. Now them Masonic lodges for the white people, they made a brick and mortar. Them things is nice, but I don't even want to go there on this one. I think the minister and I have done a video, the difference between black Masons and white Masons, because it's definitely, you know, we were in Virginia together, the minister and I, 757 stand up, and out there it was even as of 10 years ago, a little bit segregated in my personal opinion. Maybe the minister wants to talk about that, maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, minister, please.
No, I want to continue. I'm gonna add value in a minute because I have a question for you once you're done with this.
Granville McPherson. The importance of the establishment of the Grand Lodge of the Indian Territory, overseeing a membership that included a high participation of Native American members, wasn't lost on its first Grand Master. Granville McPherson. McPherson was a white man who married a Choctaw woman, nevertheless recognized the number of indigenous people responsible for assisting in the formation of the Grand Lodge. In McPherson's opening address to the Grand Lodge, he said, and I quote, "The Grand Lodge of the United States and the whole world will take a deeper interest in us than has ever been manifested in any Grand Lodge within the limits of the Great Republic. From the fact that we are the first Grand Lodge of ancient, free, and accepted Masons here, organized by the Aborigines of North America," and I didn't realize until today that he said Aborigines. It's just, maybe I don't know how I missed that when I first put this PowerPoint together, but that's just a point of interest. Many who are ignorant of the situation of affairs in this country will look upon us with grave doubts and misgivings, while others more familiar with us and our advanced stage of civilization will watch us closely, though at the same time feel confident in our ability to sustain ourselves in the proud position we have assured. End quote. And these are just some pictures of Cherokee Lodge number 146. Euclid Lodge number 45, Cherokee Lodge number 10. They're all over the place now. But eventually, Albert Pike comes in. I want to just ask the listening audience, could you press 000 if you are familiar with Albert Pike? I think, these different names you may not be familiar with, and you'll probably forget as soon as I change the slide. But Albert Pike is probably one of the most infamous, notable, however you want to look at it, names within Masonry. So I'm going to lead this parade and I'm going to press 000 because even though the minister is my SME subject matter expert. I do know at least Albert Pike, and I'll yield the floor on that because I know the other brothers wanted to speak.
So my question to you was this right here, because I as you've been talking, I'm like, questioning myself and like, let me come here, let me pull up real quick. Hold on 1 second. And I wanted to understand what was the relationship between the Juicies and the Indians was my question. And I came across this book right here, Jews Amongst the Indians, and I was just going through it, and it's an interesting read. I was looking over the notes. I said, so what to myself now? I said, so what were the Juicies doing the whole time this is going on? Because they always got their hand in something. They got their hidden hand, the hidden hand they call it, which is the hand inside of the coat breast next to the heart, right? They got their hidden hand in something. I came across this book by, I think it's M.L. Marks, The Tales and Adventures and Conflicts in the Old West. This book again is called Jews Amongst Indians. I think everybody should check that out. And it was basically saying how the Jews would they had, what's the word, empathy for the Native Americans at that time in the mid 1800s, because it was so relatable to how they've been treated. The Jews has been expelled everywhere they go, so they felt like the expelling of these Native Americans was similar to their story. So this is what the book talks about, and I guess I kind of asked my own question without asking you, but do you have anything in relation to the relationship between Juicies and Indians that you've come across so far?
Absolutely.
Oof.
Most indubitably, if I could use one of these.
I figured you did.
Yeah.
I figured you did. But yeah, definitely. Family, just wanted to add that note, and you can see that these Native Americans, and when they say Native American, they're talking about all of the Americas, by the way, not just the Southeast, Georgia, Mississippi Indians. When they say Native Americans, the pluralization also represents the more than one person, but it also represents more than one Americas. So not just the Indians in America, but North America, but South and Central America also. We say the word Native American. This is just something that caught my eye, and I wanted to see if Brother Crumb had any, if he could expound on this a little bit for us about this relationship between the Juicies and the Native Americans.
Plus, also too, if I remember correctly, there was a guy. He may have been a Scot. I think his name was James Adair. You can type that in real quick. His name was James Adair. Last name Adair. But if I remember correctly, he was an historian who hung out with some of the tribes in the southeast, and he was taking a lot of notes on them, and basically was comparing some of their cultural habits to what he wrote as the ancient Hebrews. And I also want to put in as well that a lot of these European settlers, when they came over to the Americas, they were viewing, the Americas as the land of milk and honey, and as this, quote unquote, New Jerusalem. And the indigenous people here, they view them as a peculiar people. So, just like we're hearing that, at least what I'm thinking, because just like the gentleman, McPherson, when Crumb had him on the screen, when he was giving his speech at the Grand Lodge, and he was giving an thanks and a major salute to the North American Aboriginals who established the lodge that he was joining. So once again, here he is confirming for us in a way that they were learning the masonry and being initiated by us over here. And also too, when we're thinking about a lot of this ancient Hebrew stuff, when it's talking about the Paleo Hebrew, and I'm not saying that the American Indian is the ancient Israelite. I'm still learning all this stuff myself, but In other words, there may be some connection we could look into, because a lot of these Europeans, they thought it was something peculiar about the American Indian, and some of them connected the people to what they labeled as "quote unquote" copper-colored Hebrews. But I just wanted to throw that out there, to tie that to the book.
No, I think that's a great point. I want to point to the family that when it comes to the connection of the so-called Hebrew Israelites or Jacobites or whatever the case is, want to point out the Ben Ishmael tribe. I won't go into it for time's sake, but definitely take a look at the Ben Ishmael tribe. Also, what's his name? Who this guy? Let's see if I can pull his name up. Oh God, I'm gonna slaughter his name. The Moor who helped I think it's Cortez. Was it Cortez? Oh God, can't never think of his name, man. I'll find his name in a minute for time's sake. But there was also a Moor who helped. What's the other guy name came over here? Cortez. What's the other one name? Shit. Come on, y'all.
Columbus?
Was it DeSoto?
DeSoto. There we go. Thank you. DeSoto. I spelled that right. Shit. Anyway, I'll find it in a second. I don't want to search for everybody, but what I'm gonna do, I'm finding it in a second, pull it back up. But he was crucial to translating the information in real time for the DeSoto exploration or land surveying they was doing. They were doing land surveys. They called them explorers, which means expeditions. They were coming to survey the land. His name was Escavich, was his name. He was a Moor, and he could speak the native tongue of the Native Americans, but they say he spoke Hebrew dialect. I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna come back to it in a second. I yield the floor.
Yeah, I've actually come across something similar myself.
Go ahead, Ron. You good?
Yeah. So, y'all know how I get down, family, and I'm not going to tell nobody I'm not going to tell nobody nothing they don't already know. Family, press 111 if you already know about the Hebrew Israelites. If you already know about the Hebrew Israelites, press 111. You know, I know, we all know. So let's go over that story real quick because, mind you, what we're reading, the source material is the Jewish Journal. The reason I say juicy is because I'm probably going to say it within a way that is disrespectful or somebody's going to take offense. But when we're talking about scholastic sources, this is neither good nor bad. It's just a source. So I feel comfortable saying Jewish, referring to the source material. And this is by Rabbi Dr. Stuart Halpern. And he writes, Native tribes and lost Jews, all forgotten, a long forgotten theory unmentioned in the latest debate over Christopher Columbus' Jewish origins is that with the discovery of Americans, the hope quickly emerged that the New World's natives might be, in fact, the lost 10 tribes. I'll read a little bit from it. Ever since Joseph, with his torn rainbow-colored coat, was tossed into the fatal pit by his brothers, mainly Judah, selling Negroes, back in the book of Genesis, the 12 tribes of Israel have never fully reconciled. Benjamin, Naphtali, Issachar, Judah, and companies, descendants squabbled over subsequent biblical books, leading to a divided Israelite kingdom shortly after the reign of King Solomon. Now, we know, we might not know. Let me just see. What? I thought that was a microphone. I guess it's not. Oh, is it a microphone? Check 1, check 2. Oh, allow. You can't see that. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, I guess the microphone on this side don't work. Is masonry based on King. Jeez Louise, I'm doing it with one hand because I'm holding the mic. Solomon. Let me just see. In Freemason, King Solomon represents wisdom, strength, and justice, and his story serves as a foundational allegory for personal development and moral integrity. I think King Solomon was associated with Hiram Habib, who was helping him build the temple. Um, uh, Minister, keep me honest on that. Is that a fair statement or no?
For Solomon.
Yeah, Solomon association with Masonry.
Yes, Solomon represented the King Solomon, Hiram of Tyre, and Hiram of Biff represent the three new grandmasters. The three previous grandmasters were Haggai, Zerubbabel, and Joshua. These are the
Mm,
three new grandmasters now. They're erecting the temple that's supposed to hold the what do you call it, the Ark of the Covenant, which comes later after they construct it. But Solomon is one of three of the new grandmasters of the supposed large temple.
thank you. And Solomon is a Jew, and I don't want anybody to be confused. So let's just um, are there any Ashkenazis in the Bible? It's not Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is not an Ashkenazi. He's a figure, the great grandson of Noah or something to that effect, but he's not an Ashkenazi. That's Ashkenaz. I type Ashkenazi. But anyway, we're not talking about Ashkenazis. There are no Ashkenazis in the Bible. Ashkenaz is not connected with Ashkenazis. But anyway, my point is, when we're dealing with masonry, it has a very Jewish foundation. But going back to the article, um, Israelite kingdom shortly after the reign of King Solomon, 10 of the tribes were exiled to the Assyrians. By the Assyrians during the 8th century and lost to assimilation within the vast empire. Only two, Judah and Benjamin, remained as identifiable Israelite or subsequent. Now, this is the thing. Well, okay, let me keep going. That tradition believed that should those lost tribes be found, the reunification would signal the start of the Messianic era. Now, these actually were lost tribes. Um,
And I just want to throw out there real quick. So we were just reading earlier on how during the Trail of Tears, a lot of the American Indians who stayed behind, they were assimilated and they took on European culture. And that clearly just said that the Israelites, majority of them had assimilated and lost and forgot who they were, and only a couple tribes were left behind.
mm, teach.
So and when we deal with so-called Black Americans, when we think about let's say from 1865 to 1965, that 100 years of terror, really, um, what that was just a big program to assimilate us. So yeah, assimilation has been the enemy for a while.
Uh,
Most indubitably, no question about it. Um, the
I'm sorry, before we move on past the Israelites, I wanted to add this point in real quick because I did my research real quick. Hold on, stop screen sharing. And I want to point out two individuals who came over here in the early beginnings to translate Escavico. Was I saying that right, y'all? Esteban Estevanico, who was a Moorish brother who was, sold into slavery and da da da. Was a translator for DeSoto. DeSoto, of course, they crashed somewhere in Mobile, Alabama, and DeSoto died. This brother here continued on into Mexico, where he was later, killed by Native Americans. But he spoke Columbus noted that he spoke Arabic and Hebrew. This is one individual who Columbus brought over here, making that Hebraic connection. There's one other I want to show you real quick, who is not a brother. He's a French. interpreter. Dutours was fluent in Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, French, and Spanish, and Portuguese. Served as an interpreter for the governor of Murcia, who recommended him to Columbus, who was seeking for an interpreter. So Columbus had to have Arab and Hebrew speaking individuals come to the Americas because that was the primary language of the Native Americans. Check. They later learned Spanish, or they taught them Spanish later. Just want to make that point that Hebrew dialect and language was being spoken by the interpreters who came to the shores of North America. So we're at the 1 hour mark. Before we continue on, I wanted to circle the block real quick, back to the good brother book that you guys have to go get a copy of this book. I actually dropped the link and everything in the comment for people to definitely go check that out. And I'm not sure if he dropped this now or not, but the link for the book is in the comments. Go check out the book. The big brother got a lot of great things coming on. Here we go, right here. Sorry. Go check out the book. The link for the link for the book, the email for the book is in the comments. Shoot the brother an email. Get your copy of this book right now. He went into it a little bit earlier about what it deals with, some of the ins and outs of it. I want you guys to definitely support. Take note of it. It's on Amazon, right, brother?
Yes, sir. It's on Amazon for certain. So if they just go on Amazon and type in Scorporatica, the name that they see on the screen, it'll pop up. And as you said, if they want to get it from me directly and I sign it and ship it out to you myself, you'll just hit me up at redstickmirage7@gmail.com. And let's get to it.
Absolutely. And again, that is in the comments for that copy of the book. And let's please press forward, good brother.
Absolutely. So yeah, the Indians are already infused into the Masonic culture. So by the time Albert Pike comes along, it's a shoe-in fit. They're already tapped in. And Albert Pike, I believe he was a genuine person from what I've read. I'm sure he's got some bad like everybody, and there's probably a lot of stuff I don't know about. But Albert Pike's Indian Brigade. Pike was a noted Masonic scholar from Arkansas. Although he opposed secession, he was loyal to his state. In August 1861, he was commissioned a brigadier general and negotiated several treaties between the 5 civilized tribes and the Confederate States. Those treaties specifically stated that the Indian regiments would only be used for the defense of the Indian territory. However, when General Von Dorn took command of the Trans-Mississippi District, which included the Indian Territory, he ordered Pike to assemble his regiments and join the Army of the West. Pike protested, of course, stating that this violated the treaties. Well, listen, how many treaties have they violated? Anybody know how much all is? Anyway, Von Dorn ignored Pike's objections. Pike's Indian Brigade continued. Prior to P Ridge, Pike's Indian Brigade had about 1,000 soldiers, which included a unit of Texas Cavalry. The brigade played a role on the Leetown battlefield, protecting the Confederate right flank. After ambushing a company of the 3rd Iowa Cavalry, they came under fire from federal artillery, which disorganized and scattered the Indian Brigade. When a number of federal troops were found dead with their heads scalped and bodies mutilated, the Indian troops were accused of, I can't see it because of the comments. Let me look at the original. Where's the original at? I closed that. I can't even see that. Let me see. Can I just? Okay, there we go. Were accused of atrocity, and Pike was vigorously denounced throughout the North. In July 8th, because remember, this is a time where, they would slap each other with a glove, take 10 paces and spin, and war for the European was very formal. They would remember they're the redcoats. in war we wear camo these days. We got all types of, and the Indian was no exception. The Indian with camouflage, you couldn't see the Indian coming. That's a stark contrast from wearing red coats. You can see a red coat from a mile away. So it was a different ideology for war. Anyway, in July 1862, he resigned his commission, saying that the Confederate government was violating treaties with the Indians. So, from where I stand, and of course, I haven't gone deep into Pike, but in this regard, it does seem he held his Masonic brothers down, and there was a standard that he wanted to maintain. I could be wrong. Uh, Before I go on, uh, brothers, it seemed like Pike stepped down when he saw that they was doing his Masonic brothers, the Indians, greasy. Is Pike good, bad, or in this case, is he at least have some degree of loyalty?
I think Albert Pike always had got a bad rep due to the fact of his association with the Confederacy, racism, and prejudice, and etc. etc. Um, Pike was definitely a loyalist of the Confederacy. Anybody that was for the Confederacy, you know, the Confederate States stuck together, um, through and through and true and true. There were other Confederate colonels and high-ranking members who were also associating themselves with the Indians of South America. Little people know that during the Civil War, towards the end, that the Confederate States of North America was setting up camp to open up in South America at the same time, working with those Native Americans as well. So, I think Pike was at best a liberal, a conservative for the preservation for the Confederate States of America, and the Indians were definitely at the forefront of disembodying themselves from the Union. You know what I'm saying? So I just think he got a bad rep because of association. I think if anything, Pike got the rap due to guilt by association. If anybody ever have read the book, The Morals of Dogma, they would understand.
Blackbeard, what say ye? Is Albert Pike a good dude, and this is an example, or maybe is this an isolated incident where we can see redeemable characteristics, and he's really evil out everywhere else? But it does seem like he held his Indian partners down. What say ye?
Well, it is interesting, because for one, putting in context, like you said, he became a Mason in 1850, I believe. So the Mason Lodge had already been established and already had been going. I do would agree with the brother MOI said about Albert Pike, being given a bad name from his association with a lot of the propaganda, surface level, low hanging fruit racism that they like to promote to our people. Kind of like your guy with the short mustache over in Germany, with the people that he had his situation with in the 1940s, and how they promote a lot of bad stuff about him. But objectively, when you evaluate him, you can understand it. But when I look at Albert Pike, though, what does come to my mind, though, are the Ku Klux Klan, the Knights of the Golden Circle, I believe, um, and more so like the domestic terrorism, because like these American Indians that we talking about, and like you said earlier, that term ethnicity, like whenever I hear the term ethnicity, it's certain cultural things, but it's also like phenotypes and appearances of people as well. So even these American Indians, like the ones that they showing on the screen right now, for example, like they saying savages attack, although in the Western Plains a lot of them did look like this is one of the ethnic phenotypes of the Siberian Mongoloid people. But in particular, like in the Southeast and spread throughout the greater Americas, you had these American Indians that were like, they were Negro archetypes as well. So there's also this reconciliation on the Masonic Ku Klux Klan connection. And but then again, too, like we said before, you had these different groups of Negroes. You had the free people of color. So I don't know. A lot of it, what I see, just to put a wrap on it, it's just being, real humble and being real patient to evaluate this stuff the right way. Because, like you said, he's been given a bad rap, but it's more dimensions to the story.
Now, I want to go on record by saying, like, I'm not saying Arab Pike was not a racist. This motherfucker was a devout racist. He hated niggas. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just be clear about that. That's not what I'm saying. I want to pull up the Museum of Old Newburgh, established in 1877. Newburgh reports Albert Pike toppled Part 3. This is him in his 33rd degree regalia. In the background, that will also be the Knight Templars. Okay, regalia. But this is the full giddy up. I can show you Negroes with the same giddy up on right now. Let's see what Albert said. Quote, I took my obligation to white men, not to Negroes. When I have to accept Negroes as brothers or leave Masonry, I shall leave it. I'm interested in keeping the ancient and accepted rite uncontaminated in our country, at least by the leprosy of Negro Association. End quote. I just want to put that on the record for me now. When nobody saying that MOI is in the likeness to this Peckerwood, because that's not what I'm saying. I think he just got
Right.
that rep altogether. Because if the same way people feel about him, I think they feel the same way about Madame Blavatsky. It's just an unknown thing about how they look in their association. So I yield the floor.
And then I want to throw this out there too. And this is something that I'm going to be honest that, in my graduation and maturing and learning through this process. But like, let's say, for example, somebody says they're a Mason, whether today or whether in the 1800s when we read about it, you know, somebody saying they're a Mason is one thing, but it's like also what's the agenda or the objective of the particular lodge and the members that you are associated with? Because, like you say, how could Albert Pike on one hand be a Mason and he's with the racism and all this other stuff? But then you had these other American Indians that they were, a lot of them created the Masonry and they were these Negroes, the same people he just denounced. So although you have everybody may be saying they're Mason, but you got different lodges, people of different ethnicities and different objectives, etc. So
Bro, the Black Masons don't even get along, and they have not gotten along and since I want to say the early 30s or 40s or shit like that. When two of the same brothers, not blood brothers but Masonic brothers, decided to start their own jurisdiction. Okay,
mm,
and this is the conversation you get about brothers, asking you your affiliation. Are you Scottish Rite or are you Prince Hall? Prince Hall is not a right. I don't give a damn if you are a Prince Hall Mason. I don't care. I'm a Prince Hall Mason too. Okay, I got healed 4 years ago since I moved down to Atlanta into a Prince Hall Lodge in Atlanta, District 6, Tuscan Lodge number 8. Okay, look us up. All right, PHA. I tell them today, phase 2. Prince Hall is not a rite, RITE. You have Scottish Rite, York Rite, Irish Rite, which is the lodge that Prince Hall himself, after being freed by his slave master, his stepdaddy, William P. Hall, had to go join that lodge. The red coat York Rite black Negroes from England told Prince he had to be free and accepted. He was not free, so they didn't not accept his ass. All right, but this same plight go on all the time, bro. Between brothers, 2026 is still happening.
mm,
They will ask you quickly if you are a Mason. Are you Prince Hall? No, nigga, I'm me. Prince Hall ain't the first nothing. Prince Hall wasn't even a fucking grandmaster. It's no disrespect. It's just history, and it's an aggravating conversation to have with brothers who think that way. Brother Crumb, you wanted to pull up the other screen? I see you
Yeah, please. Yeah.
good stuff going on right there.
Yeah, because when we say, this whole thing about the KKK and being racist and this and
Oh,
that,
look at this.
and again, when we're dealing with masonry, these Bengal tiger claws and all of this stuff that's clearly not in America. This is the original KKK outfit, and you can see there's a star and crescent in there.
hmm
All European fraternities come from the Islamic Moors. The Moors gave Europe her first universities and set up the first fraternities. And the KKK is no exception. It's a European fraternal order with Islamic connections. And I want to point out, and I assume everybody already knows this. Here's a KKK member, and he's reading the KKK handbook. Does anybody see what the name of the KKK handbook is?
Yeah, them goofies call it the Cloron or something like that.
The Chloron. So Chloron, as we can see here in a more clear picture, the Chloron is the handbook of the KKK. Versions of the Chloron typically contain blah 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 blah, but it's further proof of the fraternity's Islamic connection. It's a play on words for the Quran. Can somebody in the listening audience, can I get a damn Gina?
And
Because
you
I
know
don't
what
want to.
else? Not to cut you off, but you know what else is like, once again, the real one, the melanated people, the Choron, and then here you got the bleached out people coming, the Chloron, and that sounds like Clorox. Am I tripping? Isn't Clorox the brand of the bleach? And when you put bleach on something, it takes the color out. So here you got these clan members, bleached out, chlorined out, you know what I'm saying? Chloroned out, trying to take our stuff and put the Jacob and Esau flip on it. But you know, yeah, man, this is just a wordplay I noticed.
That's crazy.
Like Clorox, you know?
Now, Crumb, I want pull up the slide 14 right there. Okay, never mind. Go ahead. Continue. No. You better get into it. Continue. You already about to get into it. I see where you're going with this. Go ahead.
So 14, just to oblige the minister, is because when we break this whole thing down,
Thank you.
when we break this whole thing down and look at it piece by piece, it's not really white. It's their assimilation to what we gave them, and they just kind of copyright infringement. Anyway, KKK hats. The KKK hat is a conical, meaning a pointed hat, and one of the first conicals was worn by Osiris. But let's not go that far back. Let's not go to the Bronze Age. Let's not go to the Smurfs, because the Smurfs was wearing them too.
Yes.
Let's go to more recent history with the capirote, a Christian pointed hat of conical form that is used in Spain by members of the confraternity of penance. It's part of the uniforms of brotherhood. We're not talking about the KKK. There is no KKK at this point. And reenactments in some areas during Holy Week in Spain. This isn't even in America. Oh, there they go, Crumb. I see a picture. I said, oh, blue. Hold on, Crumb. I thought it was supposed to be white. No. Capirotes are worn by penance so that the attention is not drawn towards themselves as they repent. Remember, the KKK is a religious group, but instead to God. The capirote may have been unintentionally co-opted by the early 20th century American KKK, a white supremacy group, and as such widely constructed by a symbol of racial hatred in the United States. However,
now you're going to continue to see the 20th century for any religious movement, third great awakening. Continue, please.
Historically, the flagellants, which is to flog, to flail, to whip yourself, are the origin of the current tradition, as they flog themselves or beat themselves with a discipline to do penance. The use of the capirote or carroza was prescribed in Spain by the Holy Office of Inquisition. We're going to talk about the Spanish Inquisition on another day. The capirote was worn during the session of auto de fe. The color was different, conforming to the judgment of the office. People were condemned and to be executed wore the red carroza. Other punishments used different colors. So when we talk about this whole thing with the KKK, with all due respect, even from the burning cross to the rebel flag, if you look at all of these things,
that's a galactic cross. Continue there.
Them being called rednecks, a lot of this stuff isn't white at all. So I'm not trying to let Albert Pike off the hook, but when we talk about racism, I I have no problem with the KKK. Just like Marcus Garvey didn't have a problem with the KKK. Malcolm X didn't have a problem with the KKK. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't have a problem with the KKK. They understood, and they all stood for the same thing: racial purity, no integration, no mixed breeding, no what did the KKK not want? We can work together, we can accomplish same things, or whatever the goal is,
Yeah.
but I don't want your daughter sleeping with my son. And
Right.
I want a listening audience to just chime in. If you don't want your child to marry or have babies with a so-called white person, press 222. And if that's racist, then so be it, family. But I'm with the KKK on that. I don't want it. If you don't want integration, press 222. If you think segregation is a great idea, press 222. And guess what? You not too far from the KKK if you press 222. And I'm gonna lead this parade. Well, the minister beat me to it. A lot of you obviously have, but I'm gonna press 222 as well. I am not too far from the alignment of the KKK, just like Garvey and Malcolm X. I yield.
Hmm.
Now, and I'm sorry, brother. In keeping with the theme of the conversation of these caps and hats and brotherhood, what Crumb was actually showing you guys is one of the oldest black fraternities on the planet. The oldest black fraternity on the planet is what he was showing y'all. That was called Los Negritos. Los Negritos. Let's read about the Los Negritos real quick. This was a black fraternity thing that the KKK stole it from. That's why you guys got to know your own history. The founding of La Hermandad de los Negritos, a brotherhood dating back more than 600 years ago. The brotherhood considered one of the oldest in Europe and the oldest surviving brotherhood in Seville. The first, the first, the first black brotherhood in history was founded in 1393. Now I want you to get your Omegas, get your Black Masons, get your KKK, get all the motherfuckers together because they got to pay homage to the Moors. It was the Moors. So this is what the Moors are talking about when it comes to that fraternal shit. These are Moors in Seville, Spain. The Black Brotherhood is called Los Negritos. Now watch the imagery of the Los Negritos one more time. The Los Negritos, Los Negritos. They got the black joints on right here, the white joints on right here. This is all part of a ceremony that's conducted in Spain. And another thing they do, they paint their faces black also, and they put on the red fez, mocking
Yep.
the Moors. If you don't know who this is, right at the bottom, Juan Garito, look him up. Juan Garito was another conquistador, a black Moor. Came over here. But nevertheless, I just want to show you guys that fraternity that Crumb was just showing you guys with the caparones on the head, that's a black fraternity, not didn't do it white folk. So even the KKK, next time you see them, laugh like, no, you got that shit from.
Right.
You are the originators of everything, family. This is
And even to throw out there, we mentioned and we talked about Hernando de Soto earlier. If you look at some of his original images, he was a dark skinned melanated man.
oh, yeah,
So
of course.
like you said too, but yeah, they still have their ceremonies to this day where they dress up, in the melanated paint, dressing up like how our people look, and running around Europe, you know what I'm saying? Really paying homage, really.
That's where the bull run comes from, family.
Hmm.
They take the red flag and flap it in front of the black bull.
And another thing I want to throw out there too.
The ceremony starts like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about just the juicy and their involvement during like their early and mid 1800s, and you know, and we talked about Albert Pike. See, they have their own Freemasonic network called the Benai Brith. So the same way that these Caucasian, so-called Anglo-Saxon Christians, that they'll have their own Masonic lodges separated from, melanated people, but also the so-called Jew as well. Benai Brith, that's what some of their Masonic lodges, and they had agents, during that time working with the Knights of the Golden Circle or the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm.
Um, But yeah, there's a guy named Giuseppe Mazzini. I believe he was an Italian part of the Illuminati network, and these and another guy named Judah P. Benjamin, and he was part of the Rothschild quote unquote Illuminati network. But yeah, just some more behind the scenes with that. And even they saying they calling these people Jewish, but we more mean like Sephardim, meaning these people, a lot of them were dark skinned. But I'll end it right there.
Damn. I love the fact when we do this right here that we're calling names. I be telling
Right.
Tom, like, call their names. Fuck calling them juices and Jews. Like, call what their name is.
Mhm.
So this is right on point. Peter Perkins, please tell us about this guy right here.
So
Choctaw.
Peter Perkins of the Hatchutugni, meaning Snap Eternal clan, was a Choctaw chief of Choctaw and Anglo-American ancestry. He was a principal chief of the Choctaw Republic for only 2 years, 1864 to 66. Educated in Choctaw culture and American schools, here we go again. In 1825, Pitchland helped found a school for Choctaw boys, the Choctaw Academy in Kentucky. He also worked to reduce the sale of alcohol in their territory. Family, they didn't call it alcohol, they called it firewater. After removal to the Indian Territory in 1830s, he was appointed by the National Council in 1845 as the Choctaw delegate, akin to an ambassadorship to DC. At the time, the nation was proposing to be recognized by the U.S. Congress as a territory. After the war, Pitchland returned to D.C. to represent Choctaw interests and work for government concessions for the Choctaw lands sold under pressure to the United States in the 1830s during Indian removal. After they left, this was just like what is it called when they cut up Africa and gave it to anyway. After the war, Pitchland returned to D.C. to represent Choctaw interests and work for government concessions for the Choctaw lands that were sold under pressure to the United States during the 1830s and the Indian removal. He became a prominent member of the Masonic Order. He was a big dog. In 1860, he was raised to 33rd degree Mason of the Scottish Rite by Albert Pike. Albert Pike had only been in for 10 years, but by the time he got in, he initiates this dude. And one thing I want to point out, especially with Pitchland, not to go back to the juicy too much and harp on that, but there's something about the juicy that is a dead giveaway that he is a juicy. I'm gonna pull up this picture. I'm not even going to say what the picture is or even hit the picture because this will on YouTube, the whatever is a little more strict. But I wanted to share a screen real quick and the family could look at this real quick and just kind of look around. And this is what I like to say. I don't knows. You don't knows. Nobody knows but the nose. So and that's all I'll say about that. When we recognize these people, we're going to recognize one of the key phenotypes because a lot of them get rhinoplasty, they get nose surgery, but a lot of them, listen family, all you got to do is look at that thing on their face and you'll be able to tell who they are. We could share the screen again for the PowerPoint. So yeah, with that said, I looked at this dude and I'm like, dag nabbit, he got a juicy nose. But anyway, so yeah, with that said, he was a representative for the Choctaw and he was no question a Mason. Holmes Colbert, 19th century leader of the Chickasaw Nation in Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, of mixed European and Chickasaw ancestry. Colbert was born to his mother's Chickasaw clan and gained significance in the tribe's history through his family's privileged mixed race status. If you were of mixed race, then you had privilege, family. If it's black, stay back. If it's brown, stick around. If it's yellow, it's mellow. If it's white, it's all right. That was a quote from Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, the author of the ISIS Papers, Keys to the Colors. Anyway, yeah, his family's privileged mixed race status. Educated in an American school, he knew of both European American and Chickasaw cultures and contributed to his clan as a mediator between both worlds. He helped write the Chickasaw Nation's constitution. These are independent people in the 1850s to the Ameri- after its removal to the Indian Territory and reorganization of its government after the American Civil War. Now, it's important that we point out government. These weren't savages in teepees and running around shirtless, scalping people. They had an organized government. They were civilized outside of the whole civilized tribe aspect. They were civilized before the Indian Removal Act. I just want to point that out. Anyway, after the American Civil War, Colbert then went to serve as the tribe's delegate. Native American Freemasonry. As Joy Porter Wright, please.
I'm sorry. I want to add this real quick. We talked about the juices earlier with the with their nose. Look at his nose. These were carpetbaggers who came to the South right after the Civil War. These were the Jewish carpetbaggers. They also have scallywags. They're also called scallywags also. But I just want to point out that nose and that face. It's the same feature. It looks menacing. It looks crooked. It looks like something creepy.
Hold on. I want to add this in there too, because like the brother Crumb earlier stated earlier, the term ethnicity, race, and nationality. Now, I know me personally, whenever I hear ethnicity, I think about appearances and phenotypes. So we have just caught on to an ethnic phenotype or attribute of these particular people. I want you to type in Ferengi from Star Trek. For those of us that may be familiar with Star Trek,
Yeah, spell that.
Ferengi, Star Trek. Now, in the Star Trek series, these characters represent a money hungry species of people who are always up to something, who are always trying to get a dollar, who are always a jugging and finessing. And if you were to read the biography of these characters, now mind you, these are made up characters. Gene Roddenberry, and the guy who created Star Trek, these are characters made up, but everything is based on reality in some form. But if you do a background reading on the Ferengi, it'll clearly tell you that they were inspired by the Juicy.
I just want to type that in and see what happens.
Go to all now. Boom! There you go, right there at the top.
Oh God. Oh God.
That
They're
shit blew
everywhere.
my
They're
mind.
everywhere.
It's
Grunts,
everywhere.
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And played by juicy actors too. That is
And
crazy.
it's even crazier if you watch it because I'm talking about they only about the money and just
That
conniving
is
people. And
that
so
is
it's even showing you we done caught on to y'all, Franz Boas and Blumenbach, and y'all trying to use this crazy science to put it
that's
on us. Now we using it against you to figure out who you are, even in another galaxy.
I'm fucking done. That's crazy. Okay, continue. That's that. Why are they everywhere? Like, what? How is it possible that there's such a minority, but they show up everywhere?
The
What the
these are literally the 1%. Brother, could you share my screen real quick?
which one you at? Oh, yeah, right here. Crazy.
We've seen this picture. Your boy with the mustache, the Austrian painter, he was on it. When
Mm,
he was on it, he was checking these people, all of their phenotype.
wow.
He would check them.
Wow.
Um, I want to type this one in real quick.
Yeah.
Gonzo.
Oh God.
Wow. It's like this. It's almost like this is real. Like is this is crazy.
Though he was not
Wow.
by canon confirmed by Disney, Gonzo from Muppets is frequently identified as juicy in pop culture discussions, often cited due to his status as different, his perhaps stereotypical physical traits, and general vaudevillain energy shared with classic juicy comedians.
Mm.
Um,
That's insane, man.
Wow.
um, the merchant slave owner from Star Wars. Merchant slave owner from Star Wars.
Matter of fact, Crumb, I remember I saw one of your posts where it was a lot of cartoons and stuff like that where you caught on to that same thing. And
This is
I
the
believe,
slave owner. He was the
wow, man.
slave owner. Now, okay, so we all know Luke Skywalker. He's the most popular, but Luke's daddy is Darth Vader. Before Darth Vader became Darth Vader, his name was Anakin. Anakin was a slave, and the slave owner was this dude, and he was he was a merchant. And
Mm.
matter of fact, not only was he a merchant, minister, I guarantee you'll never guess what type of merchant he was. You'll never guess.
I don't know.
He owned a pawn shop.
Yep. There
He
it is.
owned a pawn shop.
There it is. There it is.
I don't want to beat that horse too much, but
Now-
listen, I don't.
No. You're fucking. You right on code. These are called Baron balls. Baron balls. This used to be the symbology of those punch shots. Still is to this day. These 3 Baron balls. The
Mm.
barons were Jews or capitalists or Lombards. That's who they were. And to trade and commodity, that's what the carpetbaggers did. The carpetbaggers came as merchants. They were the number one proponents of merchantism. They were the ones who started investing in the slave trade. They were the primary investors or Lombards. Watch this real quick before we go back. What were Lombards? Let's spell this right. Spell this right. That's not it right there. Hold on. Gotta ask the right question. Dang. Where what I call them? See, it's called the 3 barons. There were 3 Jewish barons, wealth and society connected to earn them title, nobility, and barons. The Rothschilds,
Mm-hmm.
House of Lords.
Mm-hmm.
They're always going to be affiliated with money, capitalism, mercantilism, something dealing with financing. You're going to always see them associated with that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The rap industry, music industry, etc., etc. I just wanted to point that out. Thanks for bringing that point up, Crumb, about the barons.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, with that said, let me go to the next slide. Where did I leave off? Okay, yeah, right here. Native American Freemasonry. As Joy Porter writes in her 2011 book, Native American Freemasonry, Associationalism and performance in America, Oklahoma is unique. Nowhere else saw Indian membership in Freemasonry on such a scale, with much of early Masonic lodges in Indian territory predominantly Indian in membership. Native American participation in Freemasonry in the Indian Territory wasn't limited to subordinate lodges. The first Grand Treasurer of the Grand Lodge of the Indian Territory was a Scots-Irish Indian named George W. Stidham. In 1896, Silas Armstrong became the first man of Indian extraction to be elected Grand Master of a Grand Lodge. In her book, Porter notes that Native American participation in Freemasonry was real, but cautious against simplistic or romantic conclusions about this participation, writing, and I quote, "Examining Indian Masonic fraternal relationships tends to paint a picture of, if not rosy cooperation, then at least genuine or mutually enabling interaction." This is about assimilation, folks. Reading Masonic records, we get a positive picture of an inter-ethnic brotherhood providing a basis for growth in the West. This was the point of assimilation. This, if it did apply, applied, of course, only to Indian elite males. We'll talk about the Eastern Stars a different day. The larger truth of Indian disposition, displacement, operation, and acute discrimination in this period still stood. In 1944, the founding conference of the National Congress of American Indians much resembled the founding conference of the Society of American Indians in 1911. Members of Congress were prominent educated professionals and intellectuals from the fields of medicine, nursing, law, government, education, anthropology, and clergy. Many had attended the Carlisle Indian School of Haskell Institute and were college graduates. The first president was Judge Napoleon Johnson of Oklahoma, a college graduate and a Freemason. The first secretary, Dan Somebody, was educated at Carlisle and as well as the Wharton School of Business and National Law and National Law School, and a Freemason. Freemasonry was the vehicle to get these Indians out of subjugation. A fraternal organization established in North America in 1834. This ritual and regalia are modeled the improved order of red men. Now, I know that the minister had legitimate qualms about this, so we can destroy the mythos on this particular slide. This is the narrative. Let's just keep it at that, and the minister will provide clarity. And this is the last slide. The rituals and regalia are molded after those assumed by men of the era to be used by Native Americans. Despite the name, the order was formed solely by and for white men. This is the Order of Red Men. The organization claimed a membership of about a half a million in 1935. On December 16, 1773, a group of colonists, all men, and members of the Sons of Liberty met in Boston to protest the tax on tea imposed by England. When their protests went unheeded, they disguised themselves as Mohawk people. It was a nigga. Proceeded to Boston Harbor. That's from the movie Rosewood. If anybody doesn't know my reference, go watch the movie if you haven't seen it. They disguised themselves as Mohawk people, proceeded to Boston Harbor, and dumped overboard 342 chests of English tea. This would be historically known as the Boston Tea Party, and they disguised themselves as Indians. You know, oh, it was a bunch of Indians who did it. So there's a lot of sketchy accounts to the whole Boston Tea Party. Minister, can you provide some clarity on that?
Absolutely. I mean, because I've heard stuff like uh, Prince Hall went on board the ship while they was doing this in order to grab the Grand Lodge charter for the Prince Hall Lodge, or whatever the case is. That's one story that was happening. Oh, Prince Hall dressed up like a sailor because he was a sailor. Prince Hall was never a sailor. He was a stevedore, not a sailor. Stevedores worked on piers, not on board the ship. To go on board the ship, and Prince Hall supposedly ripped the page from the book, the ledger, because everything that comes into the port has to be recorded, right? Ripped the page out of the ledger, and he acquired the charter during the Boston Tea Party. That's one of the stories. The other story is what you just read. A bunch of white folks dressed up like Indians and tossed over some tea out of the harbor. The Indian part was the East Indian Company, not that they were Native American Indians. These are red dot, no feather Indians they're talking about. The whole hoorah was because they was going to impose a tax. It's called a tea tax. And that imposing tea tax would have caused the East Indian Company to go bankrupt. Are y'all following me? We're also talking about at the apex of the time of America when America was not called America. We're talking about a few colonies. We're talking about the early 1600s to the 1760s. Let's say that, right? When the early 13 colonies or the 13 colonial projects. Let's start there. And now I'm gonna bring it home for y'all real quick. The shit colonial the colonial project. Here we go. It was called the colonial project. The term colonial project refers to the ongoing colonial occupation and exploitation of indigenous people, lands, and waters. The colonial project. They were not called pilgrims. This was a whole situation. A few primary investors okay, wanted to invest in the land. The East India Company was one of them. Um, um, here's another company. So I want you guys to write this down also. East India Company. And I'll circle back to the Tea Party here in like 2 seconds. The East India Company. You had the Royal African Company. This is the Royal African Company. These are companies. See this. Let me pause this shit because I'm about to get pissed off in a second. I mean it's out of love. This is the part that aggravates me with the conversation with black folks talking about the African the slave trade and everything else that you just been told without researching. The early colonies of the East Coast, when it came to Britain being involved, not talking about France. France was already in supposed Canada. France kicks off the fur trade. Okay, that's Lewis and Clark and them. Okay, that's they were land surveyors. Okay, then you have Spain and Portugal, which got the lower southeast. Right, that's why Spain was the first people to bring Africans to Georgia, and those 100 Africans ran away, and they amalgamated themselves amongst the Yamakra, the Yamasee, and the Gullah. Right, so that African out of African bloodline is also embedded into the Native American culture, Native American family also. So you can't really separate the two when it comes to that. That was in 15, I want to say 32 that happened. It was called Guadalupe. All right. So now you have this South region of North America also exposed to more invasion from the French because they came up through the Mississippi River. Right. And you had the Portuguese, not so much Portugal, but Spain and France. Spain and France were the main two proponents of everything west of the Mississippi. That's where I told you guys the other day about the Treaty of Paris. Last time I checked, Paris was in France. Last time I checked, the Treaty of Paris, when French agreed to open up the West for British colonies to go out there in the first place. They were not allowed to go out there because it didn't belong to them. Spain had owned everything from Georgia all the way to Florida, all the way out to Texas. That was called not Hispaniola, La Florida. That was all Spanish territory, all Spanish colonies. Your black ass is taught about the European colonies only, and that's all you know about. These companies, these companies were chartering ships, charging people a Tom Joyner cruise come over here. And part of the Tom Joyner cruise come over here was if you go over there, we'll give you 7 years to work up. We're not gonna charge you to go over there. We're gonna give you enough food, enough water, enough supplies to go over there and set up camp. And when you start clearing the land, and the land you start clearing out of 7 years, we'll grant you a land allotment. That was called heads rights. This is one of the first land grabs that gave heads rights. You had the lower proprietors who owned the Carolinas, the lower proprietors on the King Charles. Then you had your boy James, who took everything from Virginia all the way up to Massachusetts, or what they called New Amsterdam at the time. And these companies came together with investors, just like they do right now on Wall Street. And these investors wanted to invest on land. So the Royal African Company, the Indian Company, and this is where the tea shit started. If they had raised the tea tax, the East Indian Company would have went bankrupt. Watch this. Ties to the Boston Tea Party. The Tea Act was passed spring of 1773 to help the East Indian Company, which faced financial difficulties, and enable its control of the trade of tea. To further assert its authority over the colonies in the response to the Boston Tea Party, the British Parliament passed several acts known as Converse Acts. Nobody didn't do any of that shit they're talking about. That's all wives' tales. Okay. The Indian Tea Company, watch this. Wet countries, wet countries made up the shit. The East Indian, Indian, Yeah, Indian Tea Company. There we go. East Indian Tea Company, which was a call also called the Dutch East Indian Company. British East India Company redirects from here. It says, here's the symbolism. You can always see that red cross, do the red cross one day. It was a state-owned enterprise. These are entrepreneurs. You see the building still there? These are all companies. These are all the founders or the board members of said company. This is all slavery also. This is also dealing with company. The actual company was dissolved. East Indian stock dividends. They divided the company up and paid out all the people who were involved in it. The products they traded were cotton, silk, indigo dye, sugar, salt, spices, slaves, saltpeter, tea, and opium. They had 50,000 employees. This is a company. The East Indian Company, more commonly known as the British East Indian Company, excuse me, this is the trading ticker for you stockheads out there, was an English and later a British joint company that was founded in 1600, right? I just showed you the African Trading Company. It was founded a couple years after this right here, and it was dissolved in 1874. It was formed to trade in the Indian Ocean region, initially with the East Indians. The East Indians, red dot, no feather. Indians, which included Indian subcontinent, South Asia, and later East Asia. The company gained control of large parts of India, subcontinent, and Hong Kong. Had nothing to do with anything over here, right? This was a bunch of Brits who wanted to control stock in their private little enterprise empire dealing with tea trade. I know I took the long way around, but you guys got to understand this stuff, man. Like stop thinking that Prince Hall went on a ship and took a charter off and they throwing tea dressed like Mohawk Indians. The Mohawk Indians were not even native to Boston Harbor. I would have felt more better that they would have said the Pequot or the Wampanoag. That would make more sense. The Mohawk Indians are not even up there in that territory. The Mohawk Indians are not an Algonquian speaking people. I yield the floor. Sorry, I got hyped because that's such a myth. Go ahead, bro.
Well, that was the end of the PowerPoint. We've reached our 2 hour mark, which I think we try to keep it as a limit. There's always more material. Freemasonry and the American Indian by William
Mm,
Denslow. I read through that, which was good. This one on the right, I think it's like a magazine actually, but it's still good. California Freemason on the Frontier, Freemasons' influence on the American West. Very, there's a plethora of information out there. I had this one, and I don't debate nobody. I just block them. I had this. He's
mm.
like, oh yeah, you reach and you confuse this and that. Family,
Ah,
there's
man, this is good stuff.
it's just too much information out there for us to dismiss this. Um, and to whom it may concern, I don't know how people look at me, but I'm not saying anything bad about masonry. Hell, I'm not even saying anything bad about the damn KKK, so obviously. But nonetheless, with that said, it's a matter of contextualizing these things. And I think, just like Blackbeard was saying, just like they did with the man with the mustache, if we just look at these things from a non biased standpoint, remove the emotion and just kind of look at it for what it is and the role it played and what it was used for, and just remove the spookism, I think we'll see with clearer eyes. I'm your humble brother. I want to thank the listening audience, thank the minister, and of course the panel, primarily obviously the brother Blackbeard. And I'm looking forward to getting my copy of the book too, so shout out to you for that.
So just real quick, do you want to wait and share the news? Is it too premature to share the news?
Oh, yeah, no, well, yeah, I do think it's premature, but I will just let the family know. Gaia reached out to me. today around 2 o'clock. The Gaia. I only know Gaia through Billy Carson. I don't know if anybody watches or listens to Gaia for any other reason. If you listen to Gaia or you know Gaia, but it's only really through Billy Carson, press 333. That's kind of where I came in it because the whole Billy Carson situation. But Gaia without Billy Carson is still a respectable platform. They reached out to me. They're about to launch this new program. Uh, and they want to put me down, and if it launches, I'll be working with Gaia. So I don't know,
That's a
am
big
I
deal.
going to come? Thank you,
That's a
thank
big
you.
ass deal. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal because I think Billy Carson is the only other person of color that's on with Gaia, or however that goes. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Billy Carson myself, but we're gonna give you a congratulations already, good bro. That's well deserved. Well fucking deserved. Well deserved. And while we're signing out, family, we're gonna get you guys to go ahead and tap in on that poll right there on left hand side. What's the oldest black brotherhood? We touched on a little bit earlier. If you was paying attention, please drop that number in the comments. This is a new feature over on the platform. I like it. If you noticed last night, I also was able to put a QR code up in the left hand corner. You scan that QR code, it'll take you over to the notes that I created from the other night to get those notes. This is a new feature on StreamYard. I like it. I'm gonna start using this just a little bit more, so if you guys are paying attention, because we're not here to entertain y'all necessarily. Man. We're not here to, just put out entertainment. Um, definitely. Good job. I see everybody voted already, which is great, amazing. And that's this. This is live voting on site. Before we get out of here, brothers, I just want to share this news also. Um, and this is with all due respect. Give me 1 second. Great job, everybody, on that poll. Um, we do have a honorable mention to the good brother, Honorable Louis Farrakhan. It's his birthday, so let's send him some good energy, good positive healing energy. If he's still around, I'm hearing rumors that Brother Farrakhan may not be around. It's not wishing death on him. It's just the word on the streets. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. Okay, that first little joint like obituary. But anyway, long life to the brother. Mr. Farrakhan has definitely carried the Nation of Islam through several decades that I'm aware of, since the untimely death of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. May peace be upon him. And the Honorable Louis Farrakhan took off and has been doing an excellent job representing, I would say, black people in the Islamic community, in the Islamic faith. Thousands of members are still active with the Nation of Islam to this day. So happy birthday to the good brother. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention to all my Abrahamic faith people. This also happened today in Vatican News. I keep up with Vatican News just because of the religious aspect of it. It says Christians and Muslims may work together to revive humanity. In a meeting with participation interfaith colloquium, Pope Leo calls on the Christians and Muslims to revive humanity where it has gone grown cold, and to transforming differences in solidarity. In case you guys don't know, the Israelites and the Ishmaelites are one of the same family. The Ishmaelites branches off to the Islamic family by way of Kedar, the second or third child of Ishmael. Ishmael, of course, is the true son of Abraham. Isaac was an immaculate conception, kind of like Jesus, but because Ishmael was the true seed of Abraham, they also count. And God fell out of favor with the Israelites throughout the scriptures, and God cut them off and went to the other branch of the family. And that's why so much reverence is given to the Islamic faith, because it's one and the same family. Father Abraham had many sons. This is one of Abraham's offshoots, right? The Abrahamic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So I want to point that out today. This is caught my attention. I thought it was pretty cool that the Pope and the leading imam were shaking hands. Now, one day we're going to talk about the fact that these supposed Muslims or Arabs are actually Christians themselves who are pretending to be Islamic. They come out of the northern region of Germany. A guy did a whole special on who these guys really are. If you notice, these Islamic Arabs don't really have a starting point. and nobody really questions where they come from. I think Dr. Booker T. Coleman called them Dejectonide, which is an amalgamated people, right? So take it for what it's worth. But I thought that was pretty cool. Also, to add a little bit of value to that. You guys have anything? Oh yeah. See, there it is. There it is. And according to the Islamic faith too, brother, real quick, they said that when the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, when he was asked to read by Jibrail or recite that scripture, and Jibrail was able to recite the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad came down from Mount, and he went to his wife Khadijah. Khadijah rushed him off to the Christians, and the Christians gave Muhammad his cloak and told Muhammad that you're not possessed by a jinn. Now go preach the gospel. So he was ordained by the Christians. Muhammad was. May peace be upon him. This is interesting how the Catholics created Islam. Crazy. So, hey, everybody, thank you for your time tonight, man. Appreciate y'all. We'll be back sometime this weekend on Sunday for yet again another edition. I want to say peace to the chat. Be sure to share this, man. Be sure to share this. Go follow the good brother Crumb over on Facebook. Crumb, what's your Facebook? As if they don't know already,
Yeah.
but just for the listeners.
Yeah, it's Crumb TV on Facebook. That's mostly my antiseptic rants and rhetoric. But I'm also on Instagram. That's probably more catered towards Black people. Crumb_Snatcher_.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And of course, you guys can catch me over on the TikTok going hammer. This post right here is going a little bit crazy right here. The life of Tupac. And I don't know if Crumb remember, but I actually was booted off one of the shows. What's the good brother name in California?
Killer Priest.
Killer Priest. Shouts to the Killer Priest, man. I hope he forgave me. I haven't asked for a formal apology. I feel like if Cat Williams and Kevin Hart can bury the hatchet, so can me and Killer Priest. Maybe I'll be invited back to the show one day. But the statement I made on the show one time, just me being me, was that Tupac was a homosexual and he was an actor. If you want to know more about that, go over to my TikTok page. I think I dropped one on here too, but what's her name? Candace Owens dropped some heat on Tupac and showed a clip when he was, I don't know, go check it out. But it's on my TikTok page. Go take a look at it, man. And thank y'all for tapping in tonight, man. We appreciate y'all all the way up to high heaven. And we'll be back next time. Blackbeard, any closing words?
Just another good show. Salute to everybody. And we'll be back. It's just the beginning.
Get that book, man. All right, y'all. Peace and love.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?